All right. What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Miles Cunningham. I got the mysterious, the elusive Mr. Justin X of the Dominance Academy, man. Mr. Justin, they already know me. Tell them about yourself, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's going on, folks? My name is Mr. Justin. Some of you know me as Justin or Coach Justin. I run the Dominance Academy, and basically I've moved from dating and focus more on relationships and domination and power dynamics within relationships. And basically help guys who are usually in dead bedrooms or in family marriages or just kind of democratic type relationships where people are just floating by the seat of their pants and just seeing how things move based on instinct and changing it from that into something more structured, something more guided, and so that they can observe things and measure things. And that's how we really gain success in anything. And I think relationships are just the same.
Facts. But so where'd you get your start? Because again, a lot of guys, keep in mind, this is the same Mr. Justin that you've seen on the Manhood is a Skill Set show with Kay Zaggin. Shout out to Kay Zaggin.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to Kay Zaggin, man. Shout out to Jay Roman. Mr. Justin comes on the show, and helps us out with a lot of great precision game, and it's a beautiful thing. But let the people know, like, where'd you get your start? Why and then more importantly, after you talk about where'd you get your start and how this all started, how it started for you, why should they listen to you?
Well, they don't have to listen to me, but it's all your choice.
Right.
But yeah, I started with actually teaching guys about masculinity, like when I first came into the space, and I didn't want to get into being a dating coach. Like it felt kind of corny to me. And there were so many people already doing it. I was like, man, do I want to do that? And I was working with a business coach, and he said, what is that? He's like, what the hell is a masculinity coach? He's like, how do you even sell that? And he's like, listen, you have to get more specific. And I was like, all right, fine. I bit the bullet and I started marketing myself as a dating coach and started getting into that world. And it was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot about how to structure my business around that. But it truly wasn't what I was into, because I realized this once I started dealing with guys who were in relationships, and that I could take them through my training. And then we got into the sexual stuff. And we got into the real nitty gritty, really like where all the meat is of like real human interaction. And that's when I really came alive. So I was like going through all the motions all the way through up until they get to that point in their relationships. And I'm like, okay, yes, now we can really get into it. And I said, shit, this is really where I want to go. And I couldn't do that with every single client. Like I had to kind of feel them out, because some dudes, they're just kind of screwed up in the head, and I don't want to teach them these Jedi Master tricks and things like that, and give it to the wrong person, essentially. So, but once I did get into that space, that's when I really lit up, and I said, damn, this is really what I do. So I shifted out of dating and focused primarily on guys who are married or who are in relationships, who want to bring more polarity into the relationships, more power dynamics, and more kink. And that's where I've been, and it's been really good ever since.
Beautiful. And so why should they listen to you? If they choose to listen to you,
be
a benefit for them to listen to you.
Well, because I've been through so many different types of interactions with people. I've even gone the way of purposely sabotaging certain relationships, where I said, I've heard about these sort of things and it will quote unquote ruin relationships. Let's see if it actually does. Right. And I would take on a whole new persona gradually over time, and watching the woman's behavior. And I'm like, there it is. They actually don't like it when you're too nice. They don't like it when you're too agreeable. When they don't like it when you cater to all of their needs and put them first. And I said, holy shit. Okay. This is not only what I'm hearing it, but I said, okay, I've experienced this directly through an experiment of mine, and, totally blew up my own situation. But hey, there's things you have to do to gain knowledge. Right. And so it's knowing through a lot of different variables that I've been through, and then being able to create basically a shortcut. Because sure, if you're aware, if you're able to learn, you can, as a man, grow through these things and come to an understanding. The difference is in working with coaches like you and I is that we've gone through a lot of this stuff. We've we've gone through the gamut, and now we can take our lessons and create a shortcut path. Well, not a shortcut path, but a more efficient path for the students.
Exactly. Because I'm glad you said that, because this is really not about a shortcut, right? Because you still got to get your scrapes and bruises to really understand what you're doing, but it's more efficient, where certain elementary mistakes you won't make, certain things you're not going to get caught up in, because with this information you're able to stay focused and really get what you want from a more elevated perspective, so to speak, right? Where you can see the terrain a little bit better because you're able to talk to guys like us who can give you that higher perspective to see the terrain and be able to navigate it more efficiently. And real quick, before we go too far, shout out to everybody in the chat. We got Renee P, AJ Lino, Solid Scorpion, June Sports, Mathis R. You know what I'm saying? Really appreciate you guys for coming through. And happy holidays to everybody, and everybody that's on the lives in the morning, everybody that's on the Manhood is a Skill Set show and all that cool stuff, man. Really appreciate you guys for coming through. And thanks to Mr. Justin for finding time in his schedule to actually do this. I've been wanting to collaborate with Mr. Justin for a while now, and we finally got it done. And I don't want to give away too much, but I'm hoping that Mr. Justin will be, inaugurated as a game king at one of the seminars coming up as well. So stay tuned for that, guys, because Mr. Justin has a lot of game to impart. And I met this man, and it's, like you can always, like when you shake someone's hand, when you look him in the eye and you speak to him, you can always tell someone that's authentic, especially when you're at a certain point in life where you can see through the matrix, right? You can see through the fake smiles and the bullshit. Where you shake somebody's hand, you look a man in his eye, and you can see that the things that he says is exactly what he means. And it's not from a place of I'm trying to sell you something. I'm just literally giving you who I am as a person standing in front of you. And that's a very important thing. Now, let's talk about the topic. So the topic is the benefits of power dynamics in relationships. Now, I want us to take the time to define what power dynamics is. And I also want to make sure we define it from a place that is outside the realm of gimmick. Okay. Yeah. I really want to do that because a lot of these like coaches and content creators, they love to create acronyms, and they love to like create these phrases and words to try to sell some type of. I just want to define it on a regular, efficient, but practical way that we could define it so everyone can understand what it is. So what is power dynamics in a relationship?
Well, first, people need to understand that there's always power dynamics all around us, all the time.
Yes.
There's power dynamics in your waking life, in work, in play, in your social interactions, in your relationships, in your family. It's always happening. And usually it's bouncing around. It's shifting around constantly, depending on how the flow of conversation goes, how you relate to that other person that you're talking to, or how you relate to the system in which you're operating in, say like a work or a university or something like that. Right. So there's always power dynamics around you. And the difference, as I was explaining to you earlier before we jumped into the studio, was that with BDSM or DS meaning dominance and submission, DS relationships is that we fully recognize the existence of a power dynamic, and then we take the time to clearly define it.
Yes.
And that's really the major difference. But all of you who are in relationships or that you're dating, that is a power dynamic. So when people say, I don't like playing games, and the woman does this, and then the guy's like, oh, I'm going to do this because she did this, and then I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to pull back, and then I'm going to go forward. Like all of that is power dynamics.
Right.
Okay. To leverage who has power, who's chasing who. Okay. And in DS relationships is basically saying, I'm over here, you're over here, this is the space in between, and this is what it all means. Right. And it's written out clearly. And people make contracts. They clearly define everything in bullet point fashion. And so really power dynamics is everywhere. And it's the struggle for who has dominance, who's leading, who's following, who's dominating, who's submitting.
Right.
And I found that in DS dynamics, things, when you clearly define them, and let me say this, you don't have to be in a DS dynamic to clearly define roles. It's not necessary. Right. It just it's necessary to have a clear idea That's all that's necessary. But when you do it, it creates a roadmap that's clear for both people that you can both follow, and there's a greater chance of success. There's a greater chance of synergy happening in the relationship. And then if there's a problem, you can then have a structure and a framework in which to bounce these things off of and say, okay, is this working? Let's look at this. And if it works, then we keep going. If there's something that needs to be discussed, then you sit down and you have what I call a meta talk, where you're basically setting yourselves aside and talking about the thing, the structure itself.
Gotcha.
And then you can start discussing these things. So it takes a certain kind of mindset to be able to be that mature and talk about it, instead of, the way people are. We hear about it all day long from these guys of coming in just based on like their emotions and their sexual desires. And you can't really operate from that place. It's really, really hard to think clearly and plan and organize if you're operating through your emotions and your sexual desires.
Now, let's get into that for a second. Why would you consider that it's hard to process power dynamics when you're dealing with your emotions and sexual desires?
Because they're so powerful. Like emotions are extremely powerful and sexual desire is extremely powerful.
Right.
And I know this as a dominant. So because I'm in control of my own impulses,
right,
and I understand them, then I've also spent time with my mouthpiece, my behavior, and how I interact. And I've seen the effects of being able to influence someone's emotions, how to influence someone's mind, and how to influence their arousal. And then at some points, it turns into more or less being like a puppeteer. Because you've learned, like, holy shit, people are so easily accessed through emotions and so easily accessed through their sex. I mean, we can look at how the world markets to us. We look at so many products and they're constantly, even the news, like a long time ago, it used to be very dry. But as things have progressed, the news and advertising has become increasingly more pushing towards accessing your emotions to make you make decisions based on how you feel.
Exactly.
And and then also like, oh, you want this car, and then it shows this hot chick like leaning on it, and it's giving you this feeling that like, okay, if I get that car, then I'll get the hot chick. And we all know that really doesn't happen.
Right.
You get more guys coming into you checking out the engine than women.
Right, exactly. No, and that's a fact. That is definitely a fact.
Yeah. You go to a car show and pop that hood, it'll be flooded with guys, like not one girl.
It's so crazy because I've driven a sports car because I wanted to. Like, I just love handling and I love to drive. Like, I'm a driver, period. But I realized, because a part of me honestly thought that once I get this sports car, it's going to be nothing but chicks coming up to me. Bro, it's nothing but dudes. Nothing but dudes talk about, hey man, I like that car, man. How fast is it? Is it fun to drive? Blah, blah, blah. Like, always asking me questions about the shit. And I'm like, yo, where are the females? And it's like, well, I guess I still got to go actually pursue females as I always did. You get what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with the car. And on top of that, I'm just a low key guy. Like, I'm still the type of guy that whether I'm driving a minivan or a sports car, I'm still parking in the back of the supermarket parking lot. And I'm taking a walk. Number one, walking is healthy for me. And number two, you reduce your chances of getting into an accident in the parking lot by like 40%, because I've taken defensive driving classes and I've learned all that stuff. So I park out of the way on purpose and I take the extra walk. I don't care. But anyway, that's some other shit. What I want to talk about is when I think about the word power dynamics, and, and when we were going back and forth behind the scenes coming up with the topic, the first thing that kind of jumped out to me was the understanding that men and women are different, right? Men and women are not equal, right? And so therefore, in my eyes, and especially as a masculine identity coach, I'm always, about laying down the rules of, well, I'm the man, I'm the leader, you're the follower, you're the asset, you follow me, you trust me. And it's not from a place of control or manipulation. It's from a place of trust, because you look at the consistency of my character and you're willing and excited, right? You're in my favor, right? Because you look at the type of life that I lead, you look at the consistency of my life and the consistency of my character, and you want to follow the lead
Mhm.
and the power that I possess, right? But we're in a world today where so many people are trying to push the narrative that men and women are equal. And I wanted to get your opinion or your perspective on, like, how do you feel that that narrative, how does that affect power dynamics in relationships?
Well, in my world, power doesn't have a gender.
Okay.
Because there's pro doms. It's spelled DOMME, which are the women who are dominants, and they're professionals. Like, this is what they do for a living,
Right.
and you'd be surprised at how many extremely powerful men in the world come to these women and use them as a release, use them as a place to surrender all the responsibility and power they have in life, to have this break from being who they are for 12 hours a day. And
Right.
they spend 2 hours with this woman, and they give their mind over to this woman, you
Right.
know. And there's an element of respect in there. It's not like, sometimes there's degradation involved, sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's bondage or some sadomasochism involved, or something sexual, or sometimes it's praise, where maybe he has a praise kink and he just wants to give praise because he gets all day long people praising him and kissing his feet and kissing his ass, and he's like, I don't want to be in that position anymore.
Right.
And so power is faceless, nameless, colorless. It's just power. That's all it is.
Okay.
And there's tons of people in the BDSM culture that power shifts all over the place. And it gets really confusing when you have people who are switches, who can't really define themselves fully as either dominant or submissive. And they get with other people who are also switches, and they can have a lot of fun because they can flip around the channels however they feel, whenever they feel it.
Okay.
So power really isn't in the lane of just being for men, or just being for women or whomever. It's blank. The thing about the power dynamics that happen in a DS relationship, they can get very extreme. Like, certain things can be like, for example, a submissive may not be able to urinate unless they have permission.
Okay.
And I'm saying, like, even while they're at work,
Right.
okay, and they have to mess it, and if they can't get in touch with their dominant, they have to hold it.
Oof. Okay.
Okay, like stuff like that. Or they're not allowed to eat
Mm.
except during certain times, or they're not allowed to eat without getting permission. They can't get into bed without getting permission. They can't sit without having permission. They can't masturbate or have an orgasm without having permission. There are certain things, like, they can get very, very dangerous, okay, or get very uncomfortable either physically or psychologically. There needs to be consent. So it all has to be put at the forefront, and say the dominant says, well, I would like to do this. And then the submissive has to measure that within themselves and say, well, is this a hard limit for me? Is this like a yellow light sort of limit, or is this a green light for me? And you always give consent, and consent defines a completely mindful, aware, willing, and uncoerced choice to say yes.
Yes.
And the ability to revoke that yes at any time without fear of repercussions. So that is consent. And so within my world, it's detrimental that consent and free will are always on the forefront.
Gotcha.
So people would look and hear about me, or people in my lifestyle, and hear what we do and go, wow, that's sick, that's twisted, you're a controlling person, there's something wrong with you, and so on. But it's just my puzzle piece fits another person's puzzle piece.
Right.
And so it's like,
Specific.
I'm only a little bit of a sadist, but I've met like much more extreme sadists.
Right.
And someone might say, well, that's really messed up, but it fits perfectly with someone who's just as equally masochistic.
Right.
And then they can often build a very, very strong bond. And I'll tell you this, there's been studies done on DS relationships and what we call vanilla relationships. And the studies found that cortisol levels, the stress hormone, cortisol levels are drastically lower in DS relationships and higher in regular relationships. Trust levels are much higher in DS relationships and much lower in regular relationships. And that's because we are constantly talking, constantly communicating, constantly pushing edges to see where people's boundaries lie. And then when we hit them, we don't just go back off and go, oh, okay, that's just your boundary. Let's just leave it alone and sweep it under the rug. We then take the time to dismantle these things and get into uncomfortable psychological and emotional places and see really where people lie, because then you start unearthing that, you start dismantling that, you start healing that, and then you can go even deeper.
Okay.
And then you're getting a level of immersion into the relationship and the dynamic and each other that is unparalleled.
Wow. Okay.
And then these guys are worrying about, oh, well, what about what's the thing they do where they have sex with the person, imprinting, you know? It's like, oh my God, guys, you guys don't know jack.
Right. There's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of ignorance out there. Okay. All right. So here's the thing, guys, I want you guys to know that, during the second, cause we're about to go for about an hour. We're doing the first 30 minutes. For the second 30-minute mark, I'm going to open the phone lines. And if you guys have any questions, you can also put them in the chat and we will try to answer your questions the best we can. Right. So be prepared. At the half-hour mark, around 2:30, we're going to open up the phone lines, and you guys can always put a question in the chat, and we'll get to your questions. Now, I want everybody to be clear that I'm a masculine identity coach, not just a masculinity coach, but a masculine identity coach, because the idea of a masculine identity is something that I kind of, coined and things like that. And so that's what I run with. Now, when I talk about power dynamics, I'm talking about more of a general sense of a relationship. And I'm also talking about, and when I say general, I also mean traditional in a sense, as where I'm a man, I'm a protector, provider, and I'm talking about out in the world. I hold the power because I hold the authority, but I also hold the responsibility where I'm willing to put my life on the line to protect my woman and my family and everything that goes in between. You get what I'm saying? Now, I want everybody to understand that when Justin talks about power and power dynamics, he's talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, you're talking about more in the psychological realm within the relationship between the two people.
Yeah. It's the same sort of thing, but we get more granular with it.
Exactly. Okay. Now,
so we're getting into specific behaviors, habits, and daily living.
Right. Daily living. Mm-hmm. Because I want to just understand that a woman can be the dom in the bedroom, so to speak, and she's whipping,
of course,
and she's doing a whole bunch of stuff. But if we're out in the street and some calamity begins to happen, like what's the protocol?
Well, so that's a very good question. So within power dynamics in BDSM, there's two typical categories. Okay, so one category is PPE. All right, and that stands for partial power exchange. Okay. Right. Then the other category is TPE, which is total power exchange. Mm-hmm. So PPE usually is when there's a power exchange that only happens in certain environments.
Okay.
All right. And that could be just the bedroom or just the bedroom and say when we go out or whatever. But in regular home living, there's no power exchange. All right. And they can have like a very egalitarian situation in the home, but you close that bedroom door and it's on. Total power exchange is there's a power exchange from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep.
Right.
And there's a lot of variables that happen with that. And there's a lot you have to remember on both people's part.
Right.
So in your example, if there was a total power exchange where the woman was the dominant and say there was some sort of calamity that happened, she would still be in that role. He would just be her protector, kind of like the knight to the king. Okay. All right. So he would still be following, but as a servant of the protector, like a protector servant. And does that make sense?
Yes.
So yeah, it still exists. It's, I mean, and you'd be surprised how not common, but how more widespread these things are, because they do exist. And I've been at restaurants and stuff, and I've watched certain things, and I'm like, I bet there's a little power dynamic going on in that relationship just by watching how they're interacting at the table. Like for instance, like my girl, she's not allowed to eat before I eat. Mm-hmm. She's not allowed to eat or drink before I do. So, and I've like tested her when we gone out to dinner, and I've just sat there just to see if she remembers, and she's just staring at me, waiting.
You sadist, you. No.
Mhm. Yeah, it's not, but just to see if she remembers. It won't be all the time. Every few weeks or something like that. And
Yeah.
she'll just sit and wait. And then she knows. And then I grab my fork and I begin eating, and then she begins.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, okay. Now that brings me to your business, right? The Dominance Academy.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm sure that there are guys out there that will hear you say something like that, like, oh, snap, when he goes out to eat, his girl don't eat until he eats. That's crazy pussy control. That's I want to be like that, bro, because blah, blah, blah. What can a guy like that expect when he comes to you and wants to actually learn and get the knowledge from the Dominance Academy?
Well, the thing is that, how do I explain this? There's so many ironies in the game, right? And when you want it, you don't get it. And you get it when you don't want it. And there's so many examples of this, right? And this. It's like the game is like water. If flowing water, you try to grasp it and it just squeezes out of your fingers. But if you learn to hold it, it'll fill your hands. And a lot of these things are the same. So if you want to be dominant, then you won't be dominant.
Right.
It's kind of like that, because what's fueling your behavior, fueling your desires is something else other than dominance. It's a wanting, and that wanting is what's guiding you, that thirst or that hunger or that need. And that's connected to something else, perhaps not feeling very dominant. And then, so really a lot of my explorations with clients, we go into that. And we find out, well, what point in time did you discover that you were feeling weak? What happens? Did you have an abusive parent? Were you chastised at school? Were you bullied a lot? Was your first sexual experience like really awkward or damaging? So there's a lot of things that kind of tie into this. And really what happens is, when you're there, you kind of become what I have talked about before, is like a symphony conductor. And the symphony conductor, he hears the music, but he's not really listening to it. Okay. So to listen to music, you close your eyes, you're engrossed in the experience, and you kind of lose sense of time and place.
Right.
You can't do that. As the dominant, you learn to set your mind apart. And I tell my guys to always have a mental position of 12 inches back and 12 inches up from whatever situation you're in, including yourself. So you're always just slightly detached, and this allows you to have a clear vision. And you're not way off into the stratosphere, okay? You're not trying to have this like, bird's eye view of everything, that because it's not productive. But 12 inches back, 12 inches up, it gives you that ability to have a hearing experience rather than listening experience, because when you're hearing it, that allows the symphony conductor to observe everything that's going on, to make sure everybody's doing on time and at the right pitch and the right speed, and coming in at the right times and going out at the right times. And that allows him to be on point as well as everyone else, and so also the audience can have a fully immersive experience. But if he engrosses himself into that, then he will lose his place. He will lose his sense of timing. He won't know where he is in the song, and the whole thing will fall apart, because there's a lot of people depending on the conductor to be that way. So it's a matter of being detached even from all of your own stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I really want to fuck. But if you let that desire, that carnal desire, take control of your decision-making, then now you're at the mercy of that desire.
Right. See, this right. And I already knew that this conversation, this is one of those videos that's not going to probably get a lot of views. And a lot of the shit we discuss is going to go over a lot of dudes' heads. And they'll probably have to see it again later on in life to really understand what we're talking about. But this is one of those instances, like when me or Lucario or one of us guys on the Real Game No Theory panel might say that it doesn't make sense for a man to fall in love. Right. It's the same type of thing where it's like, as a man, like, again, me in my world as a masculine identity coach, where I'll tell a guy, don't fall in love. It's OK to love a woman after you've brought her through the vetting process, after you've made sure that she's an asset to your purpose and things like that. You can love this woman. You can enjoy her. You can, celebrate her even. Right.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love. right? Because like it's a beautiful
It's the same as listening to the music when
exactly.
you fall in love.
Exactly. Because the conductor, like you said, he's listening, but he's not listening for pleasure. He's listening for management. He's listening for timing. He's listening to make sure that the representation of the music based on all the moving parts works correctly.
Yes.
So we can actually execute the sound as it should be. And it's the same type of thing with a relationship. It's like I can't fall in love with her because I can't have both of us listening to the music, so to speak. One of us has to be paying attention to the timing and because here's the thing, and the reason why the metaphor is so beautiful is because as a conductor, you're not pressing play on a CD player. You are dealing with live people in real time in front of an audience. You get what I'm saying?
Correct.
It's the same thing with a relationship. We are live people, sometimes in front of an audience, but we're the audience ourselves too. You understand? Because we're in the relationship, but we're also experiencing it at the same time. Now, for the level of authority that a man has, like I said, from in my world, as the conductor, as the manager, as the leader, you can love it and you can appreciate it, but you're there for management. You're there to make sure that everything is represented. You make sure you're there for consistency. You're there for, provision, leadership, to make sure things operate as it should. And the beautiful part is that a lot of the music, most of the music actually is coming from the woman, right? The love, the emotionality, the romance, the feelings, the emotions, all that stuff, that's coming from the woman. So as the conductor, as the leader, as the manager, you take that energy from her and then you manage it. And then you make sure the relationship works as it should based on timing, consistency, and all the things that require that leadership that you possess as a man due to your logical mind. But if you fall in love and share her mind, where the both of you are just engrossed in the emotionality of the relationship, things are going to start to fall apart. We're going to miss consistency. We're going to manage certain things. A lot of things are not going to happen the way they're supposed to. And then at some point, the relationship will ultimately fail. You understand? And that's exactly why it doesn't really pay for a man to fall in love. Again, not to say that a man can't enjoy the relationship with his woman, but you can't just be on the same level as her, because again, we come back to the idea of a power dynamic. There has to be dynamics. There has to be a leader. There has to be a follower. There has to be someone in power. There has to be someone who's subject, relinquishing power or subject to that power. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a
again, another irony of the game is that when you no longer need, and I'm saying this from just a very wholehearted, honest place where you no longer need the woman in your life. You no longer even want her there. Okay. Because that's a desire. Only at that point can you actually love her. Because if you have a need in there and desire, that will taint how you perceive and how you behave.
Wow.
So it's like putting, like Steve mentions a lot, like putting a drop of poison in a gallon of water. Right. That's what it's like. It's putting that little drop of poison, that desire and that need, and that will completely shift your perceptions and your behaviors towards her. And so it's only until you can fully relinquish your need and your attachment to her on a physical and emotional and mental level that you can you're free to love her.
Right. Wow. Yeah. That's
it's ironic that way. It's like you're not able to have that freedom until you fully 100% let her go while she's still standing in front of you.
I'm telling you. Well, guys, we're at that halfway point. If you want to call in, the number is 646-647-9392, 646-647-9392. We'll take calls if you guys want to talk to Mr. Justin, man. I
just wanted to jump back to that question that you would ask, like the guy who sees this, me talking about a rule and they're like, oh damn, I want to do that. Like again, I wanted to reiterate and press on that point of when a guy is wanting this sort of thing, when he wants to have that, he wants to get excited and act in that way,
Mhm.
it's usually from a place of not having it.
Right.
So the like again, like with all these things that we talk about, it's always an invitation. It's
Mhm.
always an invitation to control. Okay. So for me, I like having certain elements of control, but only when the person wants it to be that way.
Exactly.
Okay. So I like many months ago, I talked to my girlfriend about orgasm control.
Mhm.
And we sat down, we had what I called a meta talk, and we explained this sort of thing. And like she's naturally a very horny person. So to me, that sounds like a very fun game to play.
Right.
Now, if she wasn't for that, it's not a deep need of mine to be like, oh, I must control her orgasms and it's going to tear me apart. Like, it doesn't really matter. It's not that big of a deal. It's not going to affect the overarching structure of everything.
Right.
That's just a detail within that. And if she doesn't want to abide by that detail, again, going back to consent, a completely mindful, aware, willing, and uncoerced choice to say yes and the ability to revoke that yes at any point in time without fear of repercussion.
Right.
So she can say no to that, and I'd be okay, cool. But after I explained, she was into it. She's like, actually, that sounds kind of hot. So now, if like she went on vacation, she went off to Hawaii with her girls, and she was in her hotel room, and she's like, Daddy, can I have an orgasm, please? And I was like, have you been listening to it? And like we went through her behavior today to check on if she has been a good girl that day, to see if she had earned that orgasm.
Yo, wait, hold on.
And then she has. And then I said, okay, good. And I want you to record it. And when you're done, sends the recording to me.
Stop.
So I've got this audio of hers.
Stop, Mr. Justin. Just hold on. You can't do it. You're doing a lot right now, bro. You doing
No, but it's I get that, but again, that's just an example to show that sort of thing doesn't happen until she had the willful and joyous desire to have that happen. So I said, listen, I want to do this. Are you down? And she's like, yeah, I'm down. And now we can have this cohesive power exchange.
Right. That's man.
And so now that even translates into the bedroom where even in the midst of the height of what's going on, she still needs to ask to come.
Whew. Oh my gosh.
And if I don't say yes, she has to hold herself back.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Listen, and that's probably not on that same level, because I'm not really into like the you said you call it DS, dom submissive.
Right. Yes. Yeah. DS is dominant submission.
Like I'm not fully into that world. However, I have, I've done that before, where I've let my woman know, look, you can't come until I tell you, things like that. So I've played games that dabble in that world, but I wouldn't say that I'm in that world. You see what I'm saying?
Well, that brings up a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because kink and BDSM are two separate things. People think, oh, if I tie her up, that's well, actually that is, but people think like if they do kinky stuff, okay, that means they're doing BDSM. That's not true, because if you look at the acronym BDSM, okay, bondage, sadism, masochism, on domination, submission, these things are non-sexual. There's nothing sex related with BDSM. It's a mental space where two or more people agree to be in.
Right.
And so, but the thing is that we are sexual beings. So it lends to people bringing DS and sex together, because we're just sexual beings as humans. Right. Okay. But I've coached guys and I've known dominants who don't have sex with their submissives. They don't do anything sexual with them. But there's clear dominance and submission, where there's orders given, there's tasks learned, there's development, and so on. Or there's sadism and masochism involved, and there's nothing sexual about it.
Wow. Okay.
So you can be kinky and not be into DS.
But let me ask you for some, because I'm always like, well, what's the reason? What's the purpose? Now, if somebody's doing tasks, or there's a dom and a sub, but there's nothing sexual, then what is and again, I'm just coming from a place of trying to learn.
Sure.
What's the purpose? Like, what's the reason? Why would a person agree to be someone submissive and then like take orders and do tasks and be given all these responsibilities or whatever it is? What's the reason? You see what I'm saying? What's the purpose?
Because they like it. There's probably a multitude of psychological reasons. Some healthy, some unhealthy. But the people that I've known who have been in the scene for a long time, you're gonna find the two extremes. You're gonna find really, really psychologically fucked up people, like to the nth degree. But you're also going to find people who are the wisest, most self-knowledge, grounded, down to earth people you've ever met in your life.
Right.
So you get extremes in this world, and then everything in between. But to answer your question, it's a, I guess, just a root desire. And there are some women out there. If we just keep this to heteronormative, there's a root desire in some women who just love to serve. They love just going to, like, folding your laundry. They love going to pick out your outfit for the next day. They love ironing your clothes. They love fixing your food. They love putting lotion on your feet. They love washing your body in the shower. They love doing stuff for you. And that's just part of their nature. Right. And so someone who's like that, they're task oriented, but not an assertive task orientation. They need to be told what to do. But once they're told what to do, they, like they make good soldiers in that sense. Right. But it puts a smile on their face. Like it makes them feel good and makes them feel fulfilled when they're able to serve someone. Now that's a submissive who's into service. There's many different types of subs, and some subs are not into service. And that's just the way it is. And then there's other subs who have totally different desires and totally different needs to have that same fulfillment. And the same is on the side for dominants. Some dominants are very task oriented, and they like giving tasks and holding people to a very strict regimen of behaviors. And then there's other doms who are a lot softer. And there's like daddy doms, and then there's also very masochistic doms. I'm sorry, sadistic doms. So who don't care about tasks, they don't care about learning things and shit like that. So there's a wide spectrum, but it all comes from having desires and fulfilling them within behavior sets, so that it can feel more fulfilling to be in your roles.
So in a way, is the purpose of it to create purpose?
Yes, I guess in a sense. Yeah.
In a sense, right? That's what I'm hearing from what you said. Because if there's a person that, they don't, maybe there's a certain level of comfort or a certain level of accomplishment or duty that comes from, like you said, lotioning someone's feet or doing someone's laundry at the behest of the orders of that person. Maybe that is the purpose that is created from the the dynamics of the relation.
Well, it's like the person will have the proclivity to begin with. Right. So let's say you get with a woman who enjoys giving massages. They like doing it. There's just something about it that they enjoy. Right. And then if they don't have, say, a person, say a man in their life who, let's say he's just okay with receiving it, and she just takes it upon herself to give him massages because she likes to do that. Right. Now, get with a guy who is more task oriented and gives her assignments or has her on a schedule that, like, every Tuesday and Thursday she is to give him a massage at 8:30 p.m., then that's going to give her more of that purpose, because it's going to take her already natural inclination to do this and putting it to something more directed.
Right.
Okay. Right. So now you're setting up what's called protocols. Right. And protocols now have triggers involved. And so now it's like there could be an alarm set for 8:25 every Monday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday, and that alarm goes off. That sets off a psychological trigger. That's going to start the cascade of feelings that are like of anticipation. Oh, I get to do this thing that I like doing. Now dopamine is starting to hit. Now the association is starting to happen between the dopamine hit, the alarm, and getting to do what she wants to do, while also giving to her dominant who she is following. So now you're getting all this psychological bonding that's happening there. Wow. Okay. And it's done again through consent, but also through guided behavior. You know, this shit can get so incredibly deep. It can get so deep, and especially when we're talking about setting up triggers and associations and anchors. And you guys who are worried about this fucking pair bonding bullshit, it's worthless. It means nothing. If you think the pair bonding is real, until you get into doing something like this, where you start dealing with, say, certain hand gestures, okay? Or you set up a trigger where I'm winding my watch, and what that does is it turns into her feeling sensations of arousal. And it's just you winding your watch, okay? And so you're like, I haven't even touched her. Okay. And so now this is something that you can absolutely set up. And you guys are worried about something as simple as like, oh my gosh, she likes the guy that she last had sex with, or she can't pair bond with me because she's had too many bodies. It's like, dude, this goes far deeper, far beyond into the subconscious than anything that has to do with her having some sexual partners.
Whew. Hey, and look, this is like, this is something that's so important to understand and explore, through conversation, because a lot of these dudes these content creators talking all this stuff, there's so much about relationships and sex and human relation that they haven't even explored yet. You understand? And
well, they don't even know it's there.
They don't know it, right? They're ignorant to their ignorance. Like it's like two degrees of ignorance separated from their perspective. And of course, because they're still worried about, like, they're still jealous, they're still insecure, they're still worried about body counts and pair bonding and all this nonsense. And they see a guy winding his watch, and there's a lady at the other corner of the room squirming in her seat, and they have no idea what's going on.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. But look, we're guys, again, you could call in 646 matter of fact, I think I got that wrong. That's why it's
647-9392. That's not the number we're using.
Nah, it's not. It's supposed to be a 919 number. That's probably why I'm not getting any. It's supposed to be 919. Hold on one second, guys. It's actually 919-647-9392. 919-647-9392. Forgive me. All right, here we go. All right.
Yeah, this is probably a rare chance that you guys have any opportunity to ask about this sort of stuff.
Yep. And that's a fact. Guys, call in if you want to talk to Mr. Justin, man. And also, and Mr. Justin, while we're 919-647-9392. 919-647-9392. Can you tell them, like, just plainly tell them a little bit more about the Dominance Academy, and if somebody wanted to join, or if somebody wanted to get under your program or your tutelage, what is it really about?
Well, there's levels to it. So the flagship program, which is the master's program, because I kind of set up what I do in sort of a university setting where there's freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and masters. So the master's program is the flagship program that takes roughly around 12 months. And it's basically a remapping of one's identity. A lot of it has to do with what's up.
What's the website? And
it's being developed right now. It'll be available in the new year. I mean, people still have worked with me, but it can be just accessed with me right now through my Instagram. And so you guys can just contact me through my Instagram, through the messaging, which is the Dominance Academy _. And you can just message me and ask any kind of questions you want. My first call is always free. You get a free 30-minute consultation to just inquire about things and see if we're a fit for coaching. But the flagship program is really just a full remapping of who you are, to gain an understanding of what's going on and to get you to where you want to be. And a lot of it is psychological. Most of it has to do with understanding your own beliefs about yourself and holding them up to the light and seeing if they are real. And it's really challenging for people. Another major part is figuring out what you want, and you'd be surprised how difficult it is for guys to want things beyond the basics.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
What, did you do that exercise? Did you try it?
But see, no, but that's what I'm realizing. And it's not just wanting things, but to be accepting about the fact that they want it.
Yes, yeah, giving themselves permission to want.
Is a lot.
Yeah. It's a big problem.
One thing that I'm seeing, especially as a masculine identity coach, I have to remind guys, like, bro, if you want to wear a blue shirt, be proud of the fact that that's what you want. If you see that woman over there and you want to go talk to her, go talk to her. Don't worry about what she says. Just accomplish the purpose of your desire. Just accomplish that first. Let's not worry about what she's gonna say and if she's gonna have a boyfriend or not. Bro, you wanted to talk to her, then go talk to her. Fulfill that desire, fulfill the purpose of your desire first, and then worry about all the other shit later. So many men seem to have an issue with desiring what they desire because they have to pause and wait and see if what they want out of life is acceptable from everyone else.
Yeah.
You understand?
Well, and I've given guys the exercise, and you guys can do it. I've mentioned it before. Right. You make a list of 101 points and make a list of 101 wants, and you'll be surprised how difficult it is for most people. It gets really hard for guys because we are conditioned through a young age to not want a whole lot. We want to just stay efficient, stay simple, and just get the job done. Right. But yeah, so we work through that sort of thing. I help guys develop what I call their constitution, which is the basis and formation of how you run the state of you. Okay. And, just in the formation of the United States, a bunch of guys got their heads together. They deliberated over probably months to figure out how to create the U.S. Constitution. And that is the backbone and framework to how things operate. And so I help guys figure that out. And then we work on program creation of how to actually have a program instead of just saying we've got a program, like really be able to list it in bullet point fashion of what the breakdown of what it actually looks like. And so you have a framework to operate from. And so your woman has a framework to operate from. And then we get into the sexual stuff and we work on the basics of how to be a god in the bedroom, and then getting into dynamics and power exchange and getting into BDSM and a lot of training in that, both with your mentality, your words, and your actions, along with like toys and triggers. We can get into hypnosis. There's all sorts of stuff. Yep.
That's crazy, man.
We get it to rule creation, rituals, protocols, and things of that nature. So I've got a ritual. It's also part protocol, but a ritual is something. It's an action that's done to get the sub and the dom into the mindset, from their daily living. So, for example, when I go to my girl's place, after do my work all day, and then I go and wash my hands because this is New York City and I'm on the subway.
Right.
I stand in front of her and I offer her my right hand, and she then takes my hand and she kisses my palm. She must do this before hugging or kissing me. So no other touch until this is done. Wow. Well, after that point, now she has freedom to have access to my body.
Oh my God.
So it's not until that point but it's both good for her mind and my mind, because it's a reminder. This is ritual to help us get into, what's this headspace of where we want to be, and then there's protocols, which are a series of actions when the dom is or is not in the sub's presence. So for example, like when the dom arrives, she greets him on her knees, removes his shoes, and kisses him between the legs, like through his pants. The hand kissing that I mentioned is also part protocol. They can cross over and support one another. Protocols are often set off by certain triggers, and in this case, it's the sound of the door unlocking. So even if she's like busy cooking dinner, and she hears the door unlocking, she's to stop doing what she's doing immediately and follow whatever protocol they agreed upon. So maybe the protocol is to stop what she's doing, put everything down, put shit to simmer or whatever, and go get on her knees and greet him and wait for him to enter the door to then take off his shoes or whatever the protocol is that they had set up.
Oh my God. Oh, see, no, that's not what I wanted. Bro, like this is
dick is a gift.
Like this is this is the type of shit, because I know some things, but I don't know none of this shit you talking about, bro. And
Well, and then there's one other part. So just one other part. So there's protocols and rituals, and then the third one is rules. And rules are specific short commands to towards certain specific behaviors. So like thou shalt not use swear words. Thou shalt use or ask permission to leave daddy's side, whether it's to go use the bathroom, to go make a phone call, or whatever. So it's very specific little things that have to do with specific behaviors, and those are rules.
So you could literally create your own commandments within your relationships.
Absolutely, and I don't see why a relationship shouldn't have them.
Wow.
You know, I mean, we have so many things. We run a business. We have a mission statement. We have a business plan. We have trajectories. We have futures. We run our numbers. We look at budget. We look at timing. We break all of that shit down. You go to a university. It's the same sort of stuff. They got their syllabus. They're this. They're that. You're tracking everything. You're looking at your grades, your GPA. You go to the gym. You're looking at your macros, your micros, your exercise, your sleep, your vitamins, your supplements, all that stuff. It's all being measured and tracked. But when we get into relationships, people are like, well, fuck it. They put their hands in their pockets, whip out their dick and say, let's just give it a go.
Exactly. Bro, that's you know what? That's a whole nother show. But listen, guys, I want you guys to see this is Mr. Justin's the Dominance Academy _ Instagram. So I wanted everybody to see it and just so they could get the correct spelling and all that other shit and make sure they actually see it. But we got the logo right here. We got the triangle. So he's definitely a part of the Illuminati. Definitely.
Yeah. There's my hand tattoo. It's the same thing.
We got a bunch of photos right here showing them, we got
and there it is. Yeah, holiday sale. So I am having a holiday sale. There's 20% off on everything that I've got going on. So, I do single calls, and then you can buy a 4-pack of calls, which is a savings per call. And then I've also got 8-pack calls when there's savings per there. So the more packs you get, the cheaper each call becomes. And then as far as, my course, again, I'm sorry that won't be available until the new year, but it'll be good. A lot of fun stuff in there.
Well, you know what, man, let's keep track of it. And when the course is actually available, we got to do another show to really get things to really promote. You understand? We're going to really promote, but we got a lot of different without trust. It says a woman can't orgasm without trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like you ever see animals like on like the Wilderness Channel and they're going to drink water.
Yes,
that is the most vulnerable place for an animal to do, but they need to do it because they'll die. But that's like they're putting their head down. You ever see a giraffe drinking water? They splay their legs way out, their heads down. Like they can get fucked up so easily.
Yes, sir.
And so it is probably the most vulnerable place a woman could possibly be. And I'm talking about the orgasms that I'm familiar with, where her emotions are deeply involved, which is a very serious, like full body orgasm. And when that happens, she loses a sense of herself, at least in that moment. She loses her sense of time, place, identity, and she becomes extremely vulnerable. Like you could kill her. You could beat the shit out of her. You could put her in a body bag and toss her in a lake. Like there's so much vulnerability involved. And not only that, like her mind is open and suggestive. So, I talk about this is a good time. That's a great opportunity to send in messages.
Yes.
Okay. So a lot of guys, they use that opportunity to send in messages that are fun and dark. Like, oh, come here, you're a dirty little whore, aren't you? And it's like, yes, I'm not, that's all fine and good, but you can also use positive affirmations in there.
That's a fact.
Okay. So while she's in the throes of passion, her brain is like mush. Okay. She's coming like a couple of times. Now you command her to tell her that she's beautiful. I'm beautiful. Tell her that she's worthy. Okay. And then tell her to say thank you. Okay. And like gratitude affirmations. I know you're big on that stuff. You can use this opportunity to then start altering her mind, how she feels about herself, but it's coming through you. So you become the anchor and the trigger for that. And it becomes extremely powerful. And you guys are still worried about fucking
it's crazy.
Body count imprinting nonsense. It's like I can do this with a woman who's had 100 bodies. It doesn't matter, and I'll be way more influential than whatever that. I can't remember the name. I don't even think about it so much.
Look, man, I'm telling you, forgive them, man. They because they know now, they really don't know what they do. Like they really don't understand. Oh, and this is another. Always, you spoke about this on the Manhood is a Skill Set show about the hatchet and the axe. That's
Yeah.
that's important. You talk
Yep.
about
Yep. Fat, very, I mean, you guys would call it checking a woman, but
right.
it largely has to do with, always being at the ready. So you always have three tools: the axe, hatchet, and the compass. And the axe is only used for extreme levels of disrespect where you are cutting off the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just done. Like there's no going back, and you just cut it off. The hatchet and the compass is for corrective measures. So the hatchet cuts off unwanted behavior, be it physical behavior or certain words, certain spoken behavior, but not only stopping it, because too many guys focus on that and they're just like putting it into it, and that's all fine and good, but where to now?
Right.
You need the compass. So you now guide to what is acceptable, because it's not good enough to say, don't do this. It's don't do this, but I'd like you to do this instead.
Right.
And I've had to correct my girl a number of times on certain things where she'll say a certain thing and I say, no, it doesn't sound like that. I want you to say it like this. And I specifically say the exact words that I want her to use. And then I say, now repeat.
Right.
And then she does, and I say, good girl.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy loves it when you listen to him this way. You've earned yourself a gold star.
Mm.
And then she knows that if I keep a catalog and I keep track of her gold stars, and she can cash them in for certain rewards. So you get enough gold stars, you get an outfit. You get enough gold stars, you get a little bag. You gold stars, you get a nice night out. You gold stars, you get a nice trip. So there's so much power in positive reinforcement when you're talking about human behavior.
Wow. Hey guys, look, relationships can get as deep as you want them to go.
Of course.
Deeper than you think, deeper than you ever thought. But we got nobody's really calling in, but we got a couple.
Hey, that's okay.
That's fine. We got a couple questions because I don't want to keep you here for too long. So let's get this first question here. King Salah says, I like to taste coochie, but I fear getting tested positive for HPV and herpes. How can I communicate that with a new casual? Should I bluntly ask her results?
Yeah, I mean, with something like that, it's so serious that you really have no choice. You can mess around and stuff, and then after you get some sort of connection, I mean, I wouldn't bother asking, like, if it's just like a one and done sort of thing, you meet a girl out and like, you're not going to be connecting with them later on, just don't even bother going down on them and just have your fun otherwise. Yeah. But if this is something that's kind of like building and you're seeing each other more often, say like once a week or a couple times a week, at that point, I would just be like, all right, hey, we've got something good going on. Let's just both get tested, because I really love eating pussy and I would love to suck on yours.
Right.
And so, and if there's enough chemistry in there, that'll be, some sort of great incentive. And you can both get tested and just look at the results. All right, cool. And then you can just go to town.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, if you, if it's the first night, I say just hit her with the finger play. Let her know that you at least know what you're doing with the vagina, with finger play. But I wouldn't go down on anybody the first night. But if you really want to, like, if you and the person are seeing each other more and more, then it's like, listen, there's more that I want to do, but I need paperwork. You know what I'm saying? So
this just like, as much as you enjoy something, you can't put your health on the line for that, because it just takes one, and then you're fucked.
Then you're done. Exactly.
Yeah.
As Steezy Chris says, do you lay out the type of relationship you want to a woman in the beginning? Explain, please.
Yes, absolutely. Beginning is a relative term. So
you got to get specific with these guys, because
okay. So beginning is a relative term. On the first time we met, no. Okay. Right. So the first time my girl and I met, I invited her out, we sat, we had a glass of wine, and I let her ask as many questions as she wanted, because she knew what type of person I was. She knew exactly that I was into this lifestyle, and it was something she was interested in trying. So I let her kind of interview me. And then we slowly started seeing each other, and it was just yes. And then things became a little bit more romantic as I got to know her better, and I started approving of her behavior. And then at that point, that's when some of the emotional things on her end started coming into play. And so I wanted to see me more often, started getting a little questioning, a little jealous. What is this? Blah, 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 complaining here and there. And I was like, okay, now it's time to address these things.
Okay.
All right. And this was after maybe a couple of months. And then I said, okay, boom. And I made a document. I said, these are the terms of the relationship.
So if you really want this, this is what it's going to be.
You're right. We're not she's got the hook in her mouth for sure. I'm guilty of that. Okay. But not so much time has passed where it would destroy her emotionally to let it go. Gotcha. It might hurt a little bit, but it wouldn't destroy her. So it's at the point where I have her fully interested, but she's not invested. So she's very much interested, and I laid it out and I said, listen, there's not going to be any of this. There's not going to be any of this. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And I laid out a full document of the terms of the relationship. And I said, do you want to get on with this? And I let her think about it. And she's like, okay, yes. Wow. And so now and after that, no more complaining. I didn't hear any more complaining about me being busy or not giving enough time or whatever. And, but at the same time, it was giving her reassurances. So it's communicating in such a way that she doesn't feel like she's off in no man's land, knowing what the fuck I'm doing. So it's understanding how to manage her emotions from a position of authority so that she feels safe enough when you're not around.
Let me see. That's and that's very important. And the difference between a guy like you and the average guy is that the average guy would be afraid to, for example, give her the document because he would be afraid of losing her at that point. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of goes with the hatchet, axe, and the compass. So right. You could use that with other people, but it's also for myself as well.
Right.
So the hatchet is used if I feel, if I have like an impulse. It doesn't happen so much now, but if I would have the impulse, it's to cut off my impulses of like, oh, the attachment or the fear or the clutching or whatever, because I know from a long time ago that that's what causes a lot of suffering. That's when you get attachment. And that's, if you look into Buddhism, that's like one of the main things is that your attachments will breed suffering.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Right.
Right.
So when you allow yourself to be attached to a woman because of the sex or because of whatever, and for a lot of guys these days, it's hard for them to let a woman know what the protocol is or what the commandments will be if we move forward into this relationship, because they're so attached that they're afraid that she might say, well, I don't agree with your document, you know.
And then he's like, okay.
Yeah, and then he's upset. He's like, well, all right, forget the document.
Okay,
I don't want to be with you. And it's like, no. It's like, no, if you can't get down with my document, if you can't get down with my manifesto, so to speak, then there's really no reason for us to move forward. And as a man, that's a reality that we all got to face. And I believe more guys need to understand this. Listen, guys, the majority of women that you're going to encounter are not going to be compatible.
Right.
The vast majority of women you encounter are not going to be compatible. It's just the way it is. Now, there might be a good handful of women that you can have sex with for a couple of weeks or whatever. There might be a handful of women that you can go out on dates with and get along with for a little while or whatever. But if we're talking about a substantial relationship, something that you're gonna carry on for years to at least build something, not many women are going to actually fall into the category. But you see, the thing is, you have to know what category you're in, and you cannot be afraid to, like you said, use the hatchet to cut these women off. You understand?
Yeah. And so that, like what you're saying, ties into what I was describing before with the Constitution and a program. So the reason why I'm able to present that document and stand on it is because there's something underneath me. And what's underneath me is the Constitution. So if you look at it in terms of like how a country is set up or a state is set up, because in the United States, not only do we have a national constitution, every state in the 50 states has their own state constitution. Right. So in order for the state to have laws, okay, like individual laws, like don't go past the speed limit, you'll go to jail if you rob this place or whatever, they can only stand on those laws because underneath that is a foundation of the state constitution. Okay, so I can have these rules, because underneath me, it's standing on a solid foundation of full understanding of who I am, what I'm about, what my values are, my codes, my beliefs, my principles, my values, all of that stuff. That's the foundation underneath, which allows me to have a set of rules.
Facts.
Too many times, though, a guy will not have that foundation.
Right.
He will not have that understanding of himself, and he'll just want the rules. Why? Because he fears the loss of her. He fears the loss of control. Because he thinks that if he gets that, it'll make him feel safe.
Right.
And that's the worst way to go about it.
Right.
Okay. We all know, we've seen those characters in movies who try to have control out of fear. And a great example is if you've guys seen Game of Thrones, and you remember the guy King Joffrey, the little kid, he had tons of control, but it was based out of fear of no one really liking him or respecting him. And he was a fuck. He was a piece of shit, and he tortured people, killed people, and all this stuff because his only way to have control is through fear.
Right. Right.
Okay. But when you're in my position, you don't need fear. You don't need to have any sort of coercion whatsoever, because your foundation has nothing to do with that. So it's like you can present the situation and go, hey, this is what it is. You're free to join it if you want to. If you don't want to join it, that's perfectly okay.
Exactly. All right. So we got the next question is it similar to a woman being led into non-sexual situation? They just feel safer.
Yeah, I think we Kaysen, we talked about this and we answered his question already. Yeah.
Okay. All right. JJ says, do you teach rigging?
Do I teach rigging? No, I am not. I enjoy bondage, but I don't have the patience for rope. Oh, so for those who don't know, rigging is a very specific kind of rope play that comes from Japan. It's called shibari, and it's very intricate rope work. It's beautiful to see. I love the way it looks. It's really sexy. It's really cool. But it takes a certain element of patience that I don't have. So I like Velcro cuffs. I like leather cuffs, leather bondage implements that you could just use carabiners and go hook, 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 boom, boom, boom. And she's in position for whatever I need to do. But respect to anybody who does shibari and rigging. It's just not my thing.
I use a belt.
Belts are great.
Yeah, belts is like a nice little Swiss Army of, because you can give lashings and you can tie and
you can bond ankles together, wrists together.
Yep.
I just would not recommend anybody using a belt as a leash because there's nothing stopping it from getting tighter.
You have to be careful. You definitely have to be.
Yeah, if you're into using leashes, get a specific collar for that.
Yeah.
That locks into place with the adjuster, and it's got a ring here that you can attach things to.
Right, definitely. Raymond says, I got a chick who's interested and physically attracted to me after we had sex a few times, but I'm a single dad. She's on the fence because of past experiences. I think she's wasting my time. Thoughts?
If you think she's wasting your time, that's because you're worried about your time being wasted. For someone who is inviting something, there is no wasting of your time. Okay. The only reason why you feel it's being wasted is because you feel you're investing something and you want something to happen. Okay. So you're attached to the thing. And like I mentioned before, your attachment is leading to your suffering. And in this state, it's not super suffering. You're just getting a little frustrated because you're not getting what you want.
Right.
So you just let go of your wants. Leave the invitation. If she wants to fuck with it, she wants to fuck with it. If she doesn't, she doesn't. And then there's no loss to you because now you're not putting in that sort of grasping energy. And that's what's causing you all the problems altogether. Because imagine you weren't putting in any sort of grasping energy, then the situation wouldn't bother you at all. It would just be a woman who just can't make up her mind.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Exactly. So Raymond, stay focused on what it is you want, what it is you're trying to invite. And if she's not with that, then just move on. It's not a waste of time. Everything is exploration and discovery. So nothing is really a waste of time unless you deem it to be that. But hey, those are some great questions. Justin, this has been a pleasure, man. We got to do this again. Like I said, once your course is like all set up, we could definitely do this again and get everybody, aware of your course and things like that. But for now, what do you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, for now, if you have any questions or you want to have a consultation or you want to get some coaching calls, just go to my Instagram and that's been listed, the Dominance Academy _ and through the link in my bio, I've got a Calendly. You could just tap on that and set up a time that you want to talk with me. The first half-hour call is free. And if you want to purchase like coaching calls, you can get a one-off, or you can get a pack of 4 for a certain cost. You can get a pack of 8 for a certain cost. And if you buy calls in packs, it saves on the cost per call. So it's beneficial for you to work in that way, because I guarantee you're not going to get everything that you want out of just one. It's impossible.
Right.
So it's it serves your best interest to get a pack, and then you can use them at any time you want. I've had guys use all 4 calls in a week. I've had guys use only a couple of calls a month. So when you purchase the call packs, you're at the freedom to use them at your own disposal.
Facts. All right, man. Look, Mr. Justin, it's been a pleasure, man. It's your boy Miles Cunningham. Appreciate every one of you for tuning in. Let me hold on. Because we got to play this holiday sale shit. And guys, also remember,
Absolutely.
as always, you can get your soap, get the Masculine Identity soap. Mr. Justin is a fan of the soap. He uses it to shave and all that. You know what I'm saying? Because
it's great stuff, man. It's very, very smooth.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Some good stuff. So make sure I get the soap. But guys, appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you, Mr. Justin, for coming through. And we are
always
out, man. Appreciate you guys. All right. Take it easy.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy, Mr. Locario, and it's that time again where we have the holiday sale. Now, in this holiday sale, when you join the Bad Boy membership or the Masculine Identity membership, you're going to get a lot of free stuff. Check this out. Now, when you join the Bad Boy membership or the Masculine Identity membership on the holiday sale, you're going to get the ultimate Bad Boy package for free. Now, this includes the Bad Boys Guide to Dating program, How to Have Sex with 2 Women a Day ebook, Manhood and the Game seminar, the Magnificent 10 Crucial Dating Tips for Men, Banned from YouTube Dating Advice mixtape, How to Pick Up and Date Multiple Women seminar, and How to Pick Up and Date Multiple Women seminar audio version. You're also going to get these other bonus programs for free. The Simple Way to Talk to Women, The Abundance Mindset, How You Must Think and Act to Date Multiple Women Successfully, The Conversation Booster, Learn What to Say to Make Women Want to Date and Have Sex with You, The Confidence Booster, Learn How to Be the Confident Man that Women Are Attracted to, What Every Man Should Know About Sex, Dating, and Relationships, The Secret Women Code, 7 Things Women Do to Deceive and Play Games with You, Step Up Your Dating Game audio seminar, Stop Being Nice and Friendly, How to Quit Being the Nice Guy that Gets Stuck in the Friend Zone, and Man Up, Principles Every Man Should Live By to Be Successful in Love and in Life. So with the ultimate Bad Boy package, you're getting 16 programs that equal up to about $2,000 in value for free just by joining the Bad Boy membership or the Masculine Identity membership on the holiday sale. But wait, there's more. You're also going to get my new program, How to Have a Successful Non-Monogamous Relationship, for free. So in this program, you're going to learn about 10 different types of non-monogamous relationships. I'm also going to break down how to get into a successful non-monogamous relationship. And you're also going to hear exclusive personal interviews with my girlfriend and my wife about non-monogamy. So make sure that you join the Bad Boy membership or the Masculine Identity membership to get this bonus also. Remember, you should get this bonus now because this program is not going to be available for purchase until spring 2024. And then when it's available for purchase, you're going to have to purchase it. But you can get it for free right now if you join badboymembership.com or masculineidentitymembership.com on the holiday sale. Now, guys, remember, this sale is from now up until January 1st, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay? So make sure you guys click the link below or go straight to badboymembership.com or masculineidentitymembership.com. Join the memberships and you'll get all of this free stuff. Remember, the sale ends January 1st, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. So I'm out of here. Remember, guys, the truth is inside you. Peace. I'm gone. I'm out.